Turk's Head Cookbook and the Globe Knot Cookbook. Okay, today I'm going to show you two different books. However, the subject is fairly similar, and so therefore I thought I'd show you two at the same time. First book I'm going to go on to is the Turk's Head Cookbook. It's by a guy called Don Burhus, and the web address on this, and I'll also put the web address in the description on my, description just below the video itself, is nottool.com. So the web address is nottool.com. Now, this book is dedicated to tying Turk's heads only. So if you're really into Turk's heads, and Turk's heads can be quite complex and difficult, as some of you will know. It's easy enough to learn how to tie your first Turk's head over your hand. I think I've got a video online that shows you how to tie a Turk's head just using your hand, and it's fairly simple and easy to follow. However, when we get to making more complex Turk's heads, then this book is really great for doing that. When you buy this book, you not only get this book, but you also get this like pegboard here. And with the pegboard also comes extra screws or grub screws and an Allen key. And the whole idea is that when you're following the cookbook or the recipe in this cookbook, what it basically does is, using your Allen key here, you set up the pins as per the instructions on your cookbook. So just by unscrewing them, you can take the pins out, and you'll see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 holes that you can set up, and another 9 holes at the bottom here. So in other words, as far as I can work out, I'm not the most brilliant person in the world, but you can make up to an 18-bite Turk's head using this tool here. And so the other thing with this tool as well is you've got one extra hole, which is at the top just here. Let me just point that out. An extra hole here. And the whole idea of this is that when you're making your Turk's head, you can put your piece of thread, string, whatever it is, cordage through here. You then tie a knot in that. So let me just tie the knot. And so that when you're making your Turk's head, then what's going to happen is your knot is going to keep your Turk's head secure in that particular section. Okay, as we open the book up here, usual stuff at the beginning, thank you for so-and-so, I don't know what it says, because usually when you get a book, you jump straight in because you want to get on and use the book itself. In chapter 1 of this book, it tells you about the Turk's Head tool itself and its use. So in other words, you get instructions on how to set this up as per the instructions in the book. The next section is regular or square Turk's heads. So there's a whole section on just normal square Turk's heads. We then go down to wide Turk's heads, narrow Turk's heads, and other patterns. And if I go back to the beginning here, I'm not sure if this will come out on the video or not, but here's a Turk's head that's like chevrons. So it's not the standard Turk's head that we're used to. So as we go into using this book, let's get to a page where I can actually use it. There's all sorts of other information in this book that you'll find useful. And here is the pages on showing you how to use the actual tool itself. We then go a little bit further, and in this particular chapter 2, regular or square Turk's heads. And as you can see here, it shows you different diagrams of what your Turk's head is going to look like. So say for example, in this top left one here, it's a Turk's head it's got 2 leads and 3 bites. And that's what it will look like when you produce it. So in other words, when you're using this cookbook, underneath that you've got numbers, and those numbers correspond to the pegs that we've got on our board here. And the whole idea is, so it says start at 1, and it usually, I think it always starts at 1 because peg 1 is the one that's directly underneath where your cordage is tied. So from peg 1, it then says go to peg 2. So peg 2 is 1, 2, this one here. It then says go to peg 3, which is at the top here, and so on. And basically, as you go through it, so let's just make out as though we've done a bit. Once you get to a point where you go under or over, so from point 2 it says go under to point 3. So you would go underneath 1 and over. So it will guide you exactly on how to do it. And it takes you round for the first run of your Turk's head, after which you can then double it up or triple it up, depending on how you want your Turk's head to look. So this in itself, you can see complex Turk's heads here. All the instructions are here. This one is 16 leads by 17 bytes. And so you end up with that particular Turk's head shape when you've produced it on your knots tool. So you would use 8 of these pegs, which gives you 8 on one side, 8 on the other, 16. Of course, the bottom row as well is included. And you just basically follow the instructions where it says here go from 1 to 9 to 17 to 8. Then it's saying go under to 16, and 16 you go over to 7, and then from 7 you go under, over to 15. So all the instructions are there. Not much thinking to do about this. You just basically follow it in the book. And the one thing I really love about this book, and I think all knotting books should be like this, especially if you're following instructions, they should be ring bound like this so that they stay open on the page that you want. That's one thing I like about this book, you know, really, is the fact it stays open when you're following the instructions. And you can see here there is pages upon pages of different knots that you can produce, or Turk's heads that you can produce. And you can see here in, for example, this bottom one here is that chevron pattern we spoke about, which is in itself 11 bytes by 9 leads. Okay, so that is the Turk's Head cookbook, and it really is, I think it's a fantastic book. And when you use it, you then your mind starts to think about how a Turk's head is made. And eventually, you can then transfer those skills without having to rely too much on your actual jig or pattern board here as such. So yeah, personally, this was an absolutely fantastic purchase. It's in America, this guy. I know he's in America because I bought it from him, and he will ship overseas. Obviously, I live in England, and I contacted him through his website, said, look, I'd like to buy one of your books. This was a couple of years ago, maybe more. Maybe they are now available in different countries, but at the time I had to personally purchase this from his website, and as good as gold, he shipped it over to the UK. Absolutely fantastic. And then, so the next book that I want to show you then is we get on to the Globe Knot cookbook. And as you can see from this cover here, we can make all sorts of beautiful decorative globe knots. And we're not, when I say globe knots, I'm not talking just balls of different colours. You can make squares as well, and all sorts, long, round, all sorts of shapes can be made from this. And once again, it really is a great tool to use. As per the previous book, we have this here. Let's see, let's go straight to the chapters here. Once again, let's see, there's also a key to all the globe knots that you can see. So in other words, it's showing us here the different knots showing on our front cover and inside cover. So if you say, for example, C1 here, say for example we like this one here, we can go across to this one and we can see that it's a 99 PMD, and you then find that inside. It's become self-explanatory as you're using it. But if that's the particular style that you want to use, that one there, you can actually pick it up from here. They're not all listed here, but a lot of them are. Once again, in this book, it gives you instructions on how to use the tool, and I'll show you the tool in a minute. And the other thing is, we also have an icon here that shows you what shapes we're going to produce when we actually use the knotting tool itself. Okay, and it also shows here a photo can be found, and also this is a winner for one or more reasons. In other words, it's probably a fairly easy knot to tie. And then if we carry on through, it's not dissimilar to the other one. We get instructions on how to use the tool. In fact, this one comes with two tools, if I recall correctly. I've only got one of the tools here, but they're both very similar in what they do. And basically, as we're using this book, it's not dissimilar to the other book itself, where here is the knotting tool itself. This is the tool, and with this one, slightly different to the other one, is that all the grub screws themselves are already inserted into the tool. And this one is a 4-bite because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 rows at the top, 4 rows at the bottom. But when you get this kit, there's also one with 3 just separated around the actual thing itself. And once again, at your starting point, there is a hole here for you to put your thread through. So in other words, I put my thread through that hole there, tie it into place, and then what you do is you follow, once again, follow the instructions. And the whole idea with this one is that in the instructions, it will tell you which of these grub screws should come out. So usually in this one, the first one, we unscrew it like so that we end up with it protruding out like that, and so our cord can come round it similar to this one here. And then it will say possibly B2, and it's, as you can see, they are lettered and numbered, so they've got letters running down here, numbers at the top here, and it will tell you exactly which screws to have showing for when you're tying the knot itself. And you can see here that, for example, on this page here, we've got one page dedicated. Top left hand side, it shows you the pattern that you will have. It tells you how many facets are on the actual knot itself, and this indication here tells you to use the 4-pin tool as opposed to the 3-pin tool. So that's it there. And then on the left hand side here, it shows you which of the screws need to be protruding in order to use this. So in this particular case, it's saying C1, D1 should be sticking out. The others, which are just circles, should not be sticking out. Then on that one, it's C2, C3, and C4 and D4 should all be unscrewed so they're sticking out. And you don't have to unscrew them very far. You just need to unscrew them far enough for you to get your cordage round and then move on to the next one as you're following the pattern. And then once again here, at the bottom here, it's telling you which pins to go round. So it's saying start at pin 1. So start at C1 in this particular case. So C1 is marked on here. Let's find it. C1 is that pin there. So we would start at that pin there. And it says go across to F4. So we're going all the way around the tool till we find the number 4, and we would go around pin F4. Then it's saying go over to C2, then to E4, then to D1, G4, and then it's going over, under, over to C3. And it's so easy to follow. I mean, you don't even have to think as you're doing this, but I find it's nice to think as you're doing this, because what you want to do is try and get some of these that you can actually do it yourself without having to look too much at the recipe book. But once again, spiral bound, easy to follow instructions, it stays open all the time, and you can see there is just loads and loads. And for example, this one here, it's 72 facets. In other words, the faces on it, like a diamond. Think of a diamond, those lovely cuts. It will make a square, or it will make a cylinder, or it looks like an oval shape here. Star meanings, it's relatively easy to do, and you can see camera here. It shows that there is a photograph of this somewhere on the front or the inside pages that you can actually, so you can see what it looks like. And once again here, okay, this one's fairly complex because you can see here it goes all the way along here down to here, and basically all this is just a carry-on because the page isn't big enough, and you follow it through like that. So, you know, really is a wonderful tool for producing globe knots as such. So that's the actual globe knot cookbook itself. Once again, that comes with tools like such. From what I remember as well, it also came with a whole load of cordage, so that, in other words, if you bought yourself this book, as soon as it arrives, you can get started, because everything you need is there available for you to actually make your first globe knot, if not even more than just one. From what I remember, there was different coloured cords and quite a lot of length of each one, and so therefore you could make a few globe knots before you even had to go out and buy one. And then finally, this is my glasses case. This one I made a while ago, and I used the Turk's Head cookbook and the Globe Knot cookbook to produce the outer covering for this. And you can see here, Turk's Head, Turk's Head, Turk's Head, Turk's Head. So basically I've got two bottom Turk's Heads here, and where the join is between the two under ones, I've covered it with another Turk's Head to give me this decorative finish. And here what I've done is I've made a Turk's Head, and then as I've made it, because it's three strands in width here, 1, 2, 3, I've just put a different colour in between just to make it look or stand out a little bit more. And then on the ends here, you can see here I've got one globe knot covering this end and a globe knot covering that end. And basically I could have put the globe knot onto a ball, but in this particular case I left one end open, so it just covered the end of my glasses case. And so as far as I'm concerned, if you're really into decorative work and you want to produce some cracking stuff, and to be honest, people do pick up this sort of stuff and go, wow, how did you make that? You know, and there's all sorts of questions that come with it, and it looks good. Stuff like this really does look good. So that is the Turk's Head and the Globe Knot cookbook. Just on one final note, I can't remember how much it was to purchase, but if you go to the website, I'm sure you'll be able to find it. And like I said before, I will put the web address at the bottom in the description section. And value for money, yeah, I love both these books, and you can spend hours just tying beautiful pieces of rope together and making decorative coverings for normal everyday items. We all know what a glasses case looks like. It's pretty drab. The only exciting thing about it is sometimes it's got a colour on it. You know, and really everybody in the world has got a colourful glasses case, but not many people in this world have got a glasses case that is covered with a Turk's heads and globe knots as such. So that's the globe knot cookbook and the Turk's head cookbook.